Cooking from the Cave, I'm Chef Pete Truziak, and today I'm going to be giving you another holiday recipe, green bean casserole. This recipe is going to include bacon, mushrooms, obviously green beans, some shallots, heavy cream, and salt and pepper. So let's start off by cooking the green beans first. We're going to blanch the green beans, and then we're going to shock them. And the process of this is cooking the green beans 3/4 of the way through in the boiling water, and then dropping them into the ice cold water, and that'll shock and stop the cooking process. Keep them nice, bright and green throughout the entire baking of the casserole. Whenever you're boiling any vegetables or cooking any vegetables, it's always good to add some salt to the water so that it brings out the natural flavor of the vegetables. It does help it boil faster, but we're really looking for flavor, as well as it keeps it greener or oranger or whatever color you're cooking in there. It brings out the natural flavors and colors in it. Once this comes to a boil, we're going to drop our green beans in, and this will be a matter of maybe 2 minutes in the water at most, and we'll transfer them over to this ice cold water. Our 2 minutes is up, and our green beans are now cooked about 3/4 of the way. I'm cooking a 1.5 pounds of green beans that I've cut up into 2-inch pieces, and I'm carefully pulling the green beans out of the hot water and dumping them into the ice cold water. And there is ice in here, and again, this is the shocking process over here with that ice. It cools it down immediately, keeps that nice bright green color, and also keeps that flavor in there. At this point, we can let those rest in that ice cold water. Alright, let's cook our bacon. We have 4 strips of bacon. This is cut into 1/4-inch pieces. You don't have to be exact with it by any means, just roughly chop it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to render the fat from the bacon, use that fat to saute our mushrooms and our shallots, kind of make that our base, so our green bean casserole is that smoky flavor running through the sauce. And then on top of the casserole, we're going to sprinkle the bacon bits at the end. I just want to get these in the pan, lay them out nice and flat, and really just let the heat do the work. And I'm going to, every now and then, just kind of turn them or saute them, move them around so that they render all that fat. Keep your heat at medium, no higher, because you don't want to burn the bacon. You just want to release that fat from the bacon itself. Alright, we've been cooking the bacon now for about 3 minutes. You can see bacon's starting to get crispy, and there is that nice fat that's been cooked out of the bacon and just kind of simmering at the bottom of our pan here. Just want to keep moving it around, kind of just make sure everything lays in the bottom of the pan nice and flat, and give it maybe another minute, and then we'll remove it from the pan. Alright, our bacon is nice and crispy. We have our reserved fat down there. Now the next thing is just to basically take this out of the pan, set this somewhere off to the side so it can cool, and then we'll begin to cook our shallots once we remove all this bacon. And remember, try and hold on to that grease in the pan. Our nice bacon fat is in the bottom of the pan. There's probably about 1.5 ounces of it in there. We're going to add 2 shallots, and I've cut them into rings, and with my spatula what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of break those rings up. What this will do is it'll give you a little different texture in with this casserole, and also great flavor. And we'll just saute this for maybe 2 minutes, let it start to get a little bit of color. The acid from these shallots are going to pick up whatever bacon bits is left in the bottom of the pan, and just continue to stir this as you're cooking. It's okay, your heat, which is at medium, is high enough to caramelize this, even with you moving it around. After 2 minutes of sauteing, you can see those shallots really pick up a lot of the color, any of the leftover bacon that's on the bottom of the pan. They still look nice and wet from that oil and everything, so let's go ahead and add our mushrooms. This is 8 ounces of cremini mushrooms, which are baby portobellos, as well as a mixture of shiitake mushrooms. Now at this point, because mushrooms have so much water in them, go ahead, crank that heat to high, And as long as your mushrooms are in a nice flat layer, they're going to start to lose all that water that's in them. Cook them out at high heat. You're going to stir them every now and then, but this process will probably take about 10 minutes start to finish. It's been about 8 minutes and our mushrooms are actually well cooked down now. They're nice and released a lot of their water. They've shriveled up a little bit. But now we can go ahead and move on to our next step. Our next step is to add the cream. But before I do that, for flavoring, and don't tell my son this because he doesn't like anything spicy, I actually add 1 tablespoon of paprika to this mixture. He just thinks it's the smokiness from the bacon. I don't tell him otherwise, so we just won't show him this clip. And I stir that in. And from this point, we can go ahead and add our cream. Now our cream is going to be really the liquid that's in this whole casserole. So I don't cook this for too long. This is 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. I bring the heat back up to high, so I want it to just come to a boil, and once it's up to a boil, I'll shut it off. That's enough of a reduction. The flavors marry well together, meaning that paprika is released into the cream, the shallots, the mushrooms. I'm going to season this with salt and pepper at this time. You can see that cream is just starting to boil. Put salt in there. And I'm going to turn it off. At this point, we can go ahead and strain the liquid off of our green beans. I just had the green beans sitting in a colander inside that ice cold water, a little trick so then you don't have to worry about picking ice cubes out or anything like that. Drop that into the cream mixture. The green beans will kind of act as a sponge. They're going to absorb a lot of that cream. Want to just make sure you get them nice and coated in here. Nice even layer. If for some reason you have too much green beans, maybe you didn't add enough cream or something like that, or the mushrooms didn't cook out all their liquid, go ahead and add it a little bit more if necessary at this time, but this is what you're looking for. Okay, you want green beans to just be covering the cream ever so lightly. We're going to grab our casserole dish, because at this point we're going to throw this in the oven, and it's all going to go right into the casserole dish. I'm going to stir it around. Push all the green beans down in there. Make sure you mix the mushrooms in real well with this as well. Just make sure the green beans and the mushrooms are mixed. From this point, we're going to put this into our oven. I have my oven set at 375. Kind of look for the middle rack if possible. I don't cover it because I want the green beans to absorb all that cream and paprika flavor. And we're going to cook it for about 25 minutes, and we'll check on it in the 25 minutes. It's been 25 minutes, and I'm going to pull the casserole out. And what's happened is the casserole, the green beans have absorbed a lot of that liquid. The next step is to put the topping on. You can see the cream's bubbling all around the edges. And the topping is going to be a mixture of breadcrumbs as well as that bacon we cooked earlier that we reserved the fat for. So I'm going to take some of the breadcrumbs, put a nice layer on top. This is one of those traditional recipes that we put a little twist on. We're not doing the fried onion rings. We're going to do bacon, breadcrumbs, a little salt, a little pepper on top, going to sprinkle a little bit more breadcrumbs on top of the bacon. And then the bacon fat will help crisp up the breadcrumbs so that when it goes back in the oven, we're going to change our setting from bake mode to broil. And I'm going to put it on the top rack. And we're going to let this broil now and keep an eye on it. I'm going to set about 2 minutes, but I want to keep an eye on that. And it might take up to 5 minutes, so just watch it as it's broiling. 2 minutes in, we're going to check our casserole. Hasn't gotten there yet, so I'm going to give it another 2 more minutes, but I will keep a real close eye on it. Another minute and a half into the broiling process. We have beautiful color on top now. The bacon is really crispy. And let me just tilt this a little bit so you can get a good shot of that. And when you pull it out of the oven, I want you to give it about 5 minutes before you even serve it, because you want that cream to kind of go back down into the green beans. So we'll let this sit, and we'll plate it up very shortly. Even after 5 minutes, it's still boiling around the edges. And I'll just serve this in this white bowl here. Some of the sauce as well. And this will become another family tradition at your Thanksgiving table. Thanks again for joining Cooking from the Cave. Hope to see you real soon, and happy Thanksgiving.